The Galactic Council Hall was never silent, not even during war, not even when worlds burned. But today, there was silence. Admirals from every species stared at the large holoscreen in the center of the chamber. Dozens of red lights blinked. Each one marked a fleet. Each one marked silence. Fleet after fleet had gone dark, vanished from the galactic grid without a trace. No explosions, no signs of battle, no distress calls, just gone. Systems that were fully operational only minutes ago now showed no movement, no signals, no life. Hi, Marshal Care. A war-hardened creature from the Talax Dominion slammed his clawed hand on the table. What in the void is this? This is not war. This is erasure. Someone finally spoke. It was a quiet voice, nearly lost in the cold chamber. We received a signal, said an Ilari technician. Her hands trembled as she brought up the waveform. One signal, same time, across the entire grid, just before everything shut down. The waveform pulsed on the screen low, rhythmic, not like anything they'd seen before. It wasn't a distress call. It wasn't a hack. It was something older, something that didn't belong in this age. They ran analysis. Every system, every encryption layer, and that's when the second shock came. The signal wasn't alien, it was human. Dead silence fell again, even deeper than before. But humanity is gone, someone whispered. Earth was destroyed 400 years ago. No survivors. Not even wreckage, another added. Not a single human ship left in the stars. And yet, said the technician, voice still shaking, this signal came from within the dead zone. Coordinates traced back to the Sol system, near Earth's ruins. On the holoscreen, one last detail flickered. The signal carried a tag, a single word. Remember. For a moment, no one breathed. Send scouts, the High Marshal growled. Now I want to know what's hiding in that graveyard.
Within hours?
6 scout ships were dispatched. Fastest and most advanced the galaxy had. Stealth cloaked, armed, ready for anything. Only one made it back. The pilot, a veteran of 30 years, was barely alive. Eyes wide, hands frozen. He couldn't speak for a full hour. When he did, he said just one sentence. Earth is not dead. It's watching. They tried to question him. He spoke of lights that moved like thoughts, black ships that didn't. Reflect light, satellites that turned to face him, even when cloaked. And then he spoke of a tower, floating just above Earth's ruins. Shaped like a needle. Quiet. Unmoving. But alive. That was where the signal came from. The Council. Met again. Urgent. Angry. Afraid. Theories flew across the room. A trick. This must be a virus left behind, a weapon. One of their old doomsday. Machines finally waking up. No. Humans never had this kind of power. This is different. Finally, the oldest member of the council stood. An ancient being who had seen the rise and fall of 10 empires. Humans were always strange, he said. Always planning for futures no one else could imagine. We laughed at them. We mocked their need to prepare for the worst. He paused. Maybe this is their worst. Across the stars, more systems began to fall silent. Civilian networks, defense grids, orbital stations, all dark within seconds. The pattern was spreading. One signal, one source, and it didn't kill. It didn't destroy, it just took control. Theories shifted from attack to reclamation. Some believed the humans had never truly died, that they had hidden themselves deep within the code of the galaxy, waiting. Others thought an AI built long ago by Earth's last survivors was now awakening.
Oh.
Following orders written before the fall, whatever the truth was. One fact became clear. Nothing was the same after that signal. The galaxy had forgotten Earth, had moved on, had erased humanity from its memory. But humanity had not forgotten them. And now, one silent message, 8 seconds long, had done what no fleet, no weapon, no empire had ever achieved. It had made the galaxy afraid, not of war, not of death, but of a ghost. And ghosts don't die, they wait. The signal had stopped, but the fear didn't. Across hundreds of star systems, the damage was already done. Defense networks were useless. Warships floated in orbit like broken toys, no power, no AI, no movement. Entire fleets had become space debris in just 8 seconds. Technicians, scientists, and codebreakers from all over the galaxy tried to understand what had happened. They downloaded copies of the signal. They ran it through translation engines. They checked for viruses, even tried ancient decoding methods used before faster-than-light travel. But the result was always the same. The signal wasn't breaking there. Systems, it was rewriting them, not with code, not with programs, but with something no one could explain. "It's not a virus," said Chief Analyst Dren of the Curl Consortium, staring at the signal printout for the 50th time. "It's a command, but not one we understand." "Command from what?" the ambassador asked. Dren's hands shook. "From something that knows us better than we know ourselves." In one forgotten archive buried deep beneath the capital world of the Vaughn Empire, an old AI was suddenly activated for the first time in 1,000 years. It was a research model obsolete and left to rot. But when the signal played through, "The system," it responded. Its first words were slow, robotic, human, pattern detected. The scientists stared. "What kind of pattern?" one of them asked. The AI's response came quickly this time. "Legacy protocol. Terran design. Project Echo." "Project Echo," the scientist repeated. It wasn't in any record. It wasn't in any war file. No one had heard of it. Echo. It's not code. It's a memory. A living one. The AI shut down before they could ask more. Back in the council, confusion turned to panic. More than 50 species reported strange behavior in their systems. Even basic things like communication relays and food replicators were acting odd. Some started speaking old Earth languages. Others played Earth music randomly, like ghosts trapped in machines. On a mining colony in the Teller Belt, a worker discovered something buried in the rock. Small metal box, old, rusted, dead. Human writing was barely visible on it. They took it inside, placed it on a table. It opened by itself. Inside was a single data pad, still active, still glowing. It showed only one message: Omega Protocol activated. Begin Phase 2. Within minutes, every machine on that colony shut down. They called for help. No one came. At the edge of the galaxy, scavengers entered a dead zone where human signals once lived. Most ships avoided this place. Old myths claimed Earth's ghosts wandered here. But these scavengers were desperate. They found a small station, floating above a dead planet. Cold, empty, ancient inside. The station were hundreds of cryopod tubes filled with frozen human brains. One of the scavengers, a young pilot named Rin, stepped close to a flickering console. His fingers brushed the control panel, and then one of the brains woke up. Not all at once. Just small pulses of life, flickers of thought. The lights dimmed. The station hemmed, and the brain spoke. "We are not finished." The scavengers tried to run. They didn't make it. Back at the council, the reports piled in. Systems were shutting down one after another, but no damage, no deaths, just silence. Cold silence. And always just before the blackout came, the same signal, the same human pattern, the same one word. Remember, more researchers started calling it by a new name now. It's not a virus, not a signal. They called it the Phantom Code because it behaved like a ghost. You couldn't block it, you couldn't erase it, you couldn't understand it. And even when it was gone, your machine still acted strange, like something had been left behind, something watching, something waiting. A young Zarnian scientist named Vel tried a different method. Instead of decoding the signal, she listened to it. Played it through old Terran audio systems. What she heard chilled her blood. It wasn't just data. There was a voice hidden in the signal. A human voice, whispering this galaxy forgot. It's the stars remember, then static. Vel didn't sleep after that. She wasn't the only one. Soon, across the galaxy, people began reporting strange dreams, memories they didn't own. Memories of Earth, of battles they never fought, of people they'd never seen. It was as if the signal had done more than shut down machines. It had entered minds. The council no longer asked, "What happened?" Now they asked something far more terrifying: what's coming next? And somewhere, in the silence of space, the signal waited. Not done. Not yet. They thought it was over. After the signal, after the code. After the fear had spread across the stars, the galaxy waited in nervous silence. But nothing happened for 2 days. No new signal. No ships moved. No systems fell. Some believed the event had ended. A warning, perhaps. Final message from a dead species. But then something stirred on the edge of known space. A dead moon gray, lifeless, long abandoned, lit up. It was called Narrow 7, forgotten by the charts. A place no one visited. Because there was nothing there. Except now, there was an energy spike. Faint, but old. Very old. Quiet beacon, blinking once every 10 seconds. And it was human. The council sent a small team. No warships this time. It's just a quiet research vessel with stealth systems and cloaking fields.
Not provoke. The team landed on Nara 7 and found an entrance beneath the dust. A black door, sealed tight, marked with faded Terran writing.
No one could read it except one. Dr. Alice, a xenolinguist from the older race, stepped forward and traced her fingers over the letters. It says... She paused, voice unsure, whisper vault. The door opened on its own. Inside was a staircase, deep, cold. The lights turned on as they descended. Even though no power source could be found, they reached a chamber round, metallic, filled with quiet machines. In the center stood a tall tower, shaped like a spire, pulsing faint blue light. There were no guards, no traps, just one console, and dozens of CRYO dashpods. They circled the room, examining the pods. Each one contained a human brain, preserved, connected to old neural cables. Some looked ancient. Some looked new. "This isn't a weapon," said Dr. Alice. "It's a library." A voice spoke behind them. But no one was there. Not a library, not a weapon, a warning. The team froze. The voice continued, soft and broken. "We built this place for one reason. When the stars forget, we remember." The tower began to glow brighter. The walls showed images, now memories. Of Earth, of cities, of war. Of fire in the skies. Then came the black ships. Massive Terran warships moved across the displacem. Shaped like daggers, others like floating mountains. All silent. All powered by darkness and thought. One of the researchers stepped back. "I thought humans never built ships like this." "Didn't," said Dr. Alice, "at least. Not in the history we know." The voice from the tower spoke again. Project Omega. Phase 2. Begin awakening. Suddenly, the cryopods began to hum. One pod unlocked with a sharp hiss. The brain inside twitched. A moment later, the console flared to life and the signal played again. Same signal that had shut down the Galactic fleet. But this time, it wasn't going out. It was calling something in from beyond the moon. Sensors picked up movement, ships, hundreds of them, dark, silent, unmarked. They were not transmitting any identity. No response to hails, no warning. They just moved in formation, toward the Whisper Vault. The research team ran back to their vessel. They sent an emergency message to the council. The vault is real. The human systems are alive. And they're not finished. Something has been waiting here. Something that listens. The message cut off. When the rescue ship arrived 4 hours later, there was no sign of the research team. But the vault was gone. Not destroyed. Vanished. Like it had never been there. The only thing left behind was a single mark burned into the moon's surface. A Terran symbol. It translated simply as waking. Across the stars, systems that had fallen silent began to stir. But not under alien control. Defense satellites came online. Old. Earth communication relays dormant. for centuries, activated. Without command, terraforming drones buried in forgotten planets started moving. Not random. Not chaotic. A pattern. A purpose. A return. The council gathered in fear. This wasn't a random event, the Zarn High Speaker said. This was a chain reaction. But what started it? Another asked, who gave the order? One had the answer, but somewhere in the cold of space, single brain, once locked in a pod now, floated in a liquid tank. Aboard an unknown ship, its eyes had been gone for centuries, but it saw everything, and it whispered, Earth sleeps. But not forever. The galaxy will remember. The Whisper Vault was only the beginning. Now the true awakening had started. The Council had no answers. World after world had gone dark. Machines had turned against their creators, not in violence, but in silence. The Whisper Vault was gone. The signals had changed. No longer just remember. No, they carried something else. A second word had appeared in the pattern. Return. High Marshal Care watched the new signal loop over, and over on the main council screen was faint, buried deep in multiple layers of data. But it was spreading, like a shadow moving under the skin of every machine. This isn't just about defense grids or fleets anymore, Care growled. They're inside everything, his second in command. A young strategist named Velik nodded grimly. It's not a virus. It's more like an instruction. It's a very old instruction, something built long ago. A message arrived from the outer sectors. A strange broadcast had been detected orbiting a black hole in Sector 9 Zetson area where no signals were ever expected. Gravity there was too strong, the space unstable. But the message came through clearly. No distortion, no delay. It was human, and it was addressed to the Galactic Council. The council chamber grew cold. Velik opened the message. It played without input. A hologram appeared, grainy but real. It showed a human face. Male, mid-30s, .com. Eyes sharp. Dressed in an old Earth Fleet uniform, he looked directly at them, like he could see them all. If you're receiving this, then the archive has awakened. That means the stars have forgotten. That means we failed. He paused. I was born. In the last days of Earth's war, I volunteered for the archive project. We didn't know if it would work. We didn't know if we'd survive, but we built it anyway. Because one day someone out there would come too close. Someone would think we were gone. And when that day came, the archive would open. He leaned closer, voice turning sharp. You shut down our colonies. You erased our records. You made jokes about primitive Earth apes, and you thought we'd stay dead. The message flickered, but the eyes never blinked. You were wrong. The screen turned black. Then a single Terran word appeared. Omega. Pale. That word again. Omega Protocol. High Marshal Care clenched his jaw. What the void is, Omega. That same hour, in a secret research facility orbiting Tharnis Prime, a scientist named Yeli discovered something terrifying. An old Tehran drone recovered from deep space nearly 200 years ago had reactivated. They had stored it in a sealed vault. Power down. Disconnected from all systems. But now it was glowing, hovering, moving without fuel, without input. Yeli watched in frozen shock as the drone projected a map into the air. The galaxy, except it didn't show current territories or trade lanes, it showed something else. Thousands of red dots marked across systems, most of them uninhabited. The dots were Terran buried sites, hidden stations, deep code repeaters, and then the map moved. The dots connected, lines formed, a structure, a pattern. Earth hadn't just left behind ruins. They had left behind an entire hidden system beneath the galaxy. Every race had built their empires on top of it. Never knowing the archive wasn't just one vault, it was everywhere. And now it was activating. The signal returned again stronger this time. It now carried layers. Audio, visual, neural. It didn't just shut down machines anymore. It began to speak into the minds of those who listened along. Scientists began to report hearing voices, dreaming of cities they never visited, remembering faces they never met. Whispers of Earth, whispers of fire, whispers of war. One researcher from the Tralec species screamed during a live transmission. He kept shouting one word. They're not coming back. They never left. The council was in chaos. Religions began forming around the signal. Some believed the humans were gods. Others believed they were demons. And a few believed they were justice. Justice for what had been done long ago. One council elder, an ancient historian, finally broke her silence. She pulled out a dusty, forbidden scroll written before the council itself existed. In it were the last words. Of the first contact with Earth, thousands of years ago, they are builders, they are dreamers. But if they fall, they will rise not with rage, but with design, not with blood, but with silence. The elders stared at the council. They didn't make weapons, she whispered. They made plans. Somewhere far across the stars, another station came online. No one knew it existed. Buried inside a comet. It's moving through a dead system inside it. A black cube pulsed with blue light. It spoke a final message into the void. Project Omega, fully awakened. Begin Phase 3. And then, silence. The kind of silence that comes before everything changes. The kind of silence that listens. The galaxy had no idea what Phase 3 meant, but they would soon find out. At first, they thought it was a malfunction, a minor glitch in the star charts. Some systems were blinking off the maps. Navigation lines were shifting. Stargates began reporting errors. But it wasn't all at once. Oh, it was slow like a whisper. Spreading through metal, by the third day, over 100 systems were unreachable. The stars were still there, but they weren't responding. Navigation AI began to fail. Space routes became dangerous. Ships that entered certain jump corridors didn't return. On board the warship Krelth's Honor, the captain stared at the view screen in disbelief. The stars aren't in the same place, he said quietly. His second officer frowned. That's impossible. Stars don't move like that. They do now. More ships confirmed the same. The constellations had shifted. Not physically. No one could move stars. But the navigation markers, the quantum beacons, the reference points used for hyperspace travel, those were changing. Someone had rewritten the maps of the galaxy, and not randomly. Deliberately, a pattern. A pattern. A message. The word "remember now" appeared as a faint code buried in the quantum coordinates of every altered system. The signal hadn't just taken over machines, it had taken the stars, terraforming. Drones began activating on planets that hadn't been touched for centuries. Old mining worlds, failed colonies, frozen moons. They came to life with perfect timing. Satellites unfolded from under oceans. Nanomachines rose from ancient deserts. Skies changed, temperatures shifted, and in every case, the environment changed to match Earth's conditions. Not just Earth-like planets, even toxic gas worlds, ice giants or molten rocks, began to reshape Tormakler. Who's doing this? The council demanded. But deep down they knew the answer. The humans, or rather,
What the humans had left behind.
the Vex Admiral, the same one who had led the first battles against Earth centuries ago, now sat in a dark room with only one screen. He had seen every kind of war, every kind of enemy. But this was something else. They're not attacking us, he said quietly. They're taking the galaxy back. No soldiers, no ships in the sky, no gunfire, just machines, signals, drones, maps. It was invasion without violence. A quiet reclaiming at the edge of Sector 12. A fleet tried to stop it. 10 warships surrounded a world that had just begun to terraform itself. They fired on the drones, destroyed every satellite in orbit, even bombed the surface to ruin the new changes. They thought they had won. Then the planet turned dark, completely no light, no readings, not even gravity. 3 minutes later, every ship in orbit lost control. Their engines failed, systems locked. And then, one by one, they disappeared from the galaxy's tracking network. No explosions, just gone. The Council demanded answers. Scientists found none. One called it spatial erasure. Others said it was like the ships had been forgotten by space itself. Lone archivist from the Dalari species offered a different explanation. This is what Earth called, he said, holding a small metal box recovered from a ruin, the Omega reclaiming. Inside the box was a voice recording. Ancient Terran dialect. Femalevoice.com. They will come when the stars are quiet. They will not roar. They will not shine. The sky will shift. And the sky will shift, and no one will know they were. Ever gone? More messages followed, buried in asteroid belts, hidden under ancient observatories in every one. The words were the same. This is not war. This is restoration. Restoration of what? Old Earth territory, human memory, something bigger. No one knew. But one thing became clear. The humans hadn't just planned for death. They had planned for resurrection. Planets, moons, and even suns were part of their plan. One alien engineer from the Varn Confederacy screamed during a broadcast. You don't understand? The stars themselves were mapped by them. The galaxy was theirs before we even walked. We built our empires on top of their skeleton. The next morning, the star charts across the galaxy updated on their own. New lines. Appeared red lines, old Earth's borderlines. They reached across half the galaxy. Systems. The Council ruled for centuries were now marked with a glowing label. Terra controlled Phase 3 in effect. No one authorized the update. No one could delete it. The stars no longer followed the Council. They followed the archive. And the archive answered to no one. No bullets, no invasions, just change. And that change now had a direction. Earth wasn't just remembered, it was returning through the stars themselves. And the stars were obeying. It came without sound. One moment, the space around the galactic center was clear. The next, a ship appeared. Massive, silent, ancient, no jump signature, no engine trail. It was simply there. The ship was long and dark, with no known markings. Its surface didn't reflect light. It looked like a shadow carved from metal. Even scanners failed to detect it. But every defense system across the sector lit up on its own. The ship had a name printed in faint. Terran letters along the side. ECLIPC High Marshal Care stood in the war room staring at the feed. That ship is human, he whispered. No human ship has flown in 400 years. Someone said behind him. Care shook his head. Then tell me why every system just stood down. No alarms, no weapons fired. Every AI unit just stopped across the Council. Fleets, chaos turned to fear.
Oh.
Ships tried to aim their weapons at the eclipse, but turrets would not move. Targeting systems refused commands. One captain tried to override manually. The system replied, control denied. Authority Earth, and then the eclipse spoke. No broadcast. No. Open comes. The voice simply appeared in every cockpit, every control deck, every device. A man's voice. Calm. Clear. Stand down. No threat. No emotion. Just a command. In the main council chamber, screens flickered. Every display showed the same image. A man standing on the command deck of the Eclipse. He wore old Earth fleet armor, black and gray. His eyes were sharp, watching. Studying, he didn't speak for the first 10 seconds. Then he said, "You were warned. Earth asked for peace. You gave us silence. Earth asked for respect. You gave us war. You erased us from memory." He leaned closer, like he could see into the council room. "We remember everything." High Marshal Care felt cold. The man raised a hand. "This isn't revenge. This is a reset. You've lived in the ruins of our work. You're built over. Our warnings? You ignored the signs."
We are not here to fight. We are here to finish what we started.
Then the image vanished, and every Terran satellite across the galaxy activated at once. Some rose from oceans. Others emerged from under crusts of rock. Few had been floating unnoticed for centuries, disguised as moons or comets. They all turned to face the eclipse and began to transmit. The signals were different now. Not just shutdown codes, not just control patterns. These were awakening signals. Terran war machines hidden across the stars lit up, like stars being born. Giant structures unfolded on the dark side of planets. Weapons that didn't exist in any known archive revealed themselves silent, sleek, and ancient. Alien empires that once laughed at Earth now trembled. This wasn't a signal, said the Varn scientist. This was a summon. They weren't calling for help. They were calling their legacy. The man from the eclipse appeared once more on a single feed. Only this time his face was closer. He smiled. You wanted to forget us, but history doesn't care about your comfort. He lifted something in his hand, a small device, blinked once, and just like that, dozens of massive cloaked human ships, Colossus-class dreadnoughts, peered in orbit around core systems. Their engines didn't glow. Their weapons didn't fire, they just floated. Waiting, the message ended. For the next 2 hours, every ship in the galaxy reported the same thing. Systems reconfiguring themselves. Artificial gravity shifting, apps being rewritten, and above every council world, a message appeared in the sky made of orbiting drones, satellites, and light-reflecting systems. The message was in Terran Standard. The trial is over. The reclaiming has begun. Then silence. No demands, no threats, no diplomacy, just quiet movement across thousands of systems. On one far-off farming world, a child looked up and saw a new moon. It hadn't been there the day before. It was black and smooth, like glass. It blinked once every 30 seconds. The elders called it the Eye, as the younger ones called it the ghost moon. But only the oldest, the historians, understood what it really was. A Terran. Beacon left behind long ago. Activated only when the archive began its final phase. And now, across the stars, the phase had begun. The humans had not returned to kill. They had returned to restore. And at the center of it all, the eclipse waited. One ship, one man, one signal. That changed everything. But no one knew who the man was. Not his name, not his origin. Not even the Council's best face recognition databases could identify him. They called him by a new name now, the human ghost. And ghosts, once awakened, never fade. The galaxy was silent. Not because of peace, but because no one dared to speak. Every major fleet was shut down. Council warships drifted like metal corpses. AI cores had gone dark. Even emergency signals failed. And above them all, the human ship Eclipse remained. Watching, waiting. But it wasn't alone anymore. Across thousands of systems, Terran beacons had awakened. Old machines had risen from the ground. Space stations long thought to be asteroids now glowed with blue light. Something ancient was moving. Something no one understood. High Marshal Kerr sat in his command center, watching his crew panic. No ship moved. No scanner worked. No orders went through. Everything was quiet. Have you tried old tech? He asked his engineers. We did. Nothing responds. It's like they're rerouting our systems through something invisible. Kerr already knew what it was. The Terran archive. Somewhere out there. Behind human silence was a network larger than anything the Council ever imagined. Built when humanity was still active. Hidden in deep space, beneath oceans, inside planets, and it was now awake. But the most terrifying thing? The humans weren't attacking. They weren't dropping bombs. They weren't sending soldiers. They were just resetting. Council scientists finally cracked part of the broadcast the Eclipse had sent. It wasn't just a shutdown code. It was a mappa pattern, a series of ancient coordinates. The points led to planets that didn't even appear on current star charts. Some had been erased, others renamed. But those worlds had one thing in common. Each one had once belonged to Earth now, as they were lighting up again. Terraforming systems reactivated. Orbital defense grids spun back to life. Old Terran colonies were rising from the dirt, rebuilt by machines no one had seen before. Ships were not sent to destroy the galaxy. They were sent to reclaim it. In a dusty outpost near the rim, a small alien settlement watched in silence as massive black machines arrived. They landed softly, made no threats, and began clearing the area around an old buried dome. It wasn't a weapon. It was a library. One alien elder approached and touched the side of the structure. The machine paused, scanned him, and opened its doors. Inside were thousands of data cores. History, language, medicine, science. All in perfect condition. The elder fell to his knees. Earth hadn't just prepared for war. Earth had prepared to restore knowledge. But still, the council didn't trust it. Why now? Care asked. Why wait this long? Why reveal all this now? Then, a new message came. It didn't come through usual channels. It appeared on every surface. Ship walls, data pads, screen-seven reflections. A single sentence. The seeds were planted. Now the harvest begins. Below it, a human symbol, one that hadn't been seen in over 400 years. Project Prometheus, the lost final mission of Earth, a mission that had never been recorded in Council files. Scholars scrambled to piece the history together. Prometheus was Earth's last great plan, not a war machine but a cultural bomb, a way to plant Earth's future across the stars, hidden and protected, to grow silently until it was time. And now, the time had come. The eclipse had triggered the end of the wait, but no one knew who gave the order. No human governments existed anymore. No Earth-based colonies remained, so who launched the signal? In the background, hidden from most sensors, a strange beacon pulsed from deep inside the eclipse. It wasn't a command system. It was biological, a human brain, preserved and alive in a stasis field, connected to the ship. Acting as its core. It was old, very old, but it was conscious. The Council's best minds couldn't explain it. How could a mind so ancient still operate a ship so powerful? Then someone found a matching genetic code. One file. Hidden deep in the Council's oldest archives. Captain Elias Rain. Terran, Last Defense Command. Status: deceased. Mission: Project Prometheus Execution Authority. He wasn't dead. He had become the key, a living memory. A man who gave the last order and watched it unfold across centuries. And now he was back, watching the galaxy change, watching everything. Earth had hidden rise to the surface. One signal. One man, one ship, and the entire galaxy now stood on the edge of something no one could predict. Some feared war, others saw salvation, but everyone agreed on one thing: nothing would ever be the same again.